Hello Shishoons, my name is Alex and today we're continuing my concept for a Ben 10 reboot. Last time we went over the first 10 aliens Ben would start with, from Heat Blast all the way to Vampire. However, starting with the second season, Ben would either unlock or scan DNA samples from other aliens. This is known as the add-ons playlist. For this reboot, I wanted to keep that concept as well, but I will be juggling a few things around for the sake of the video. Speaking of, for this video I'm only going over 5 aliens for now. I know I did 10 last time, but I gotta pace myself for videos like this. I'll be going over the first 2 add-on aliens along with a trio that is a fan favorite but never really got a lot of love. But before we move on, I like to run down my general rules of thumb real quick. Number 1, the art style will be closer to my own. This way I'm not restricted by too many guidelines and make them stand out from the originals. I misspoke the last time I did this, so I'm clearing that up now. Number 2, I wanted to alter the roster due to creative preferences. And number 3 is multiverse theory. For this reboot, some alien species are replaced with different ones for series representation. The multiverse theory is just here to justify these actions. Just keep that in the back of your mind while watching this. With all that said, it's hero time! Let's start with one of the most beloved aliens in the franchise, Cannonbolt. Kinda like Heat Blast, I feel like I'd be hanged if I didn't add him at some point. Even the official reboot knew how much of a fan favorite he was, because he was one of the starting 10. But what made him incredibly special was that he was the first additional alien added to the roster, not once, but twice. Sorry for the little rant. Cannonbolt was one of my favorites. Now, his main ability is to curl up into a ball and roll around at high speed, which does qualify super speed as a power. Cannonbolt also has shell plating that is damn near indestructible. His species use this as a defensive move, but you know what they say, a good defense is a good offense. Yes, he basically rolls around slamming into people and ricocheting like a pinball. But he also uses this as a tactical maneuver to confuse opponents. Other abilities, aside from enhanced durability, strength, dexterity, etc., he's also got sharp claws, and his plating can reflect lasers. So for weaknesses, Cannonbolt can still feel pain. His plates may be indestructible, but that doesn't mean he's unkillable, you know? Also, due to his proportions, he can't properly walk right like humans most of the time, and even if he can, he has to take it very slow. This is why he's normally rolling around at high speeds. In terms of the design, there wasn't much I could do aside from adding more plating to his forehead area. I also added the Omnitrix symbol to his chest, much to my dismay. I like it on the forehead, but I couldn't do it without seeming cluttered. Also, for the eyes, I made them a yellowish orange. Like I said in the last video, I wanted to give aliens their own unique eye colors. It's a detail from the classic series I liked, but they threw that out the window starting with Ultimate Alien Force. With that said, may I present to you my take on a rebooted Cannonbolt. Next up is some new series representation. So, because of multiverse theory, instead of Wildvine species, it's instead replaced by one that's similar but different enough. This is Vineline, an alien I created on one of my girlfriend's TikTok live streams from about 2 years ago. Just to clarify, I didn't come up with the name, it was a chat member on the stream. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name. I know I'm the worst. I never really thought of a proper name for his species or his homeworld though. If you can think of any cool names, please let me know in the comments. Now, I'll go over his design before the powers. As you can see, I base his stance and proportions on Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. But he's also based on Florins, which is a playable race in a game called Starbound. I don't know anything about them, what their culture is, don't know any of that. I don't even really know what Starbound is. I just took the facial features and inspired the costume after them. That was it. Also, as I went through the design, I chose to add tendrils on his back, similar to the reboot Wildvine. I feel it helped convey his abilities a little better. Speaking of which, Vineline has chlorokinesis, which is the ability to control plants, but this also extends to himself because he's literally a plant person. I tried to emphasize this with wrinkles all over his body, especially on the arms. However, I conveyed it through tendrils that sprout from his back. These tendrils also act similar to Doc Ock, where these things act like limbs and are used for traversal. Side note, yes, he has enhanced biology, but that pretty much goes without saying at this point. Now for weaknesses. Vineline is weak to fire and cold, no brainer, but his tendrils are also vulnerable, because a smart enough opponent can tangle them together along with himself. Oh, and side note about the fire and cold weakness, this can dry him out, wilt, and potentially die. With that depressing moment aside, I present to you Vineline! Now to move into some fan favorite aliens, the Halloween Trio, a series that was introduced for the classic series' 3rd season. I'm still trying to come up with ideas for the second half of the playlist, so you're gonna have to deal with me juggling them out of order, okay? Okay. Let's start with the first alien introduced with the trio. Blitzwolfer is a stupid name. Yeah, first and foremost, a name change. Let's shorten the name to Blitzwolf. It rolls off the tongue a lot better than rearranging the name of a real-world CNN newscaster. So, I did not have an easy time with this one. So far, this was the trickiest alien that I ever designed. Off camera, I fiddled around with the proportions until I finally figured out something. Anyways, aside from enhanced biology, Blitzwolf has sharp teeth and claws, canine hearing and smell, which gives him perfect tracking abilities, prehensile feet, quadrupedalism, and a quadruple hinged jaw. This jaw allows Blitzwolf to emit an ultrasonic scream that can propel himself into the air, reflect projectiles, and it can shatter a Petrosapien, Diamond Head species. Now for weaknesses, his howl is useless if his mouth is clamped shut. Also, given how he's a wolf, he naturally has sensitive hearing. Also, his sense of smell can be overwhelmed by strong scents. Now, for the design, I pretty much blended the classic and Omniverse designs. Let's be honest, it's pretty hard to screw him up because he didn't appear that often. This is something that I changed for this reboot. Let's just say during the 2-part finale, Ben would use this transformation in the first half. Regardless, the suit is the top of the Omniverse design mixed with the original design straps around the waistline and color scheme. With all this in mind, I give you my redesigned and renamed Blitzwolf. Moving through the freaky triad, next up is Snare-oh. Snare-oh was a pretty cool alien when he appeared, even though it was a total accident. His abilities include his enhanced biology. The strength part is pretty impressive because of his lanky physique, but his body is completely made of bandages and has full control of them. He can also regenerate his body parts should they get cut off. Additionally, the bandages can unravel so he can slip through small cracks or avoid attacks. And to be honest, I don't have much else to say about his powers. They're pretty simple, and at this point, they're practically a dime a dozen, you know? For weaknesses, Snare-oh's bandages can be tangled. He is susceptible to being frozen, and when the bandages are unraveled, strong winds can blow him away. Now that the admittedly boring powers are out of the way, time for another problem: the pose and design. The easiest part was the actual uniform. I used the original Snare-oh combined with Omniverse's collar and shoulder plates. However, the only bit of gold is the head area. The gauntlets, boots, and robe are the uniform black and white. For the bandages and headdress, I initially sampled the colors from the original Snare-oh, but they were too dark. So I bumped up the brightness. With this poorly handled explanation, I present to you my rebooted Snare-oh! Wrapping up the video, we have the electrifying Giga Chad himself, Frankenstrike. Sorry for the jokes, but they were right freaking there. Definitely the most fan-loved of the trio, Frankenstrike made one hell of a first impression, even though it was in the weaker half of a two-part episode, but we're getting off track here. Frankenstrike's abilities, aside from his enhanced biology, are electric powers. Specifically, he can generate electricity from the Tesla coils on his back, which he can also control. Side note, he's also got metal in his body, making him a living lightning rod. This allows him to channel electricity into his fists for shocking punches. But the lightning can also control magnetic fields. The best example I can think of this is in the classic series, when he attached himself to a ship with electricity. As for weaknesses, he can suffer from electric overload, he can be overpowered, and like forearms, his size can be a problem. Also, because there's heavy chunks of metal in his body, he's fairly slow. In terms of design, I pretty much kept him similar to the classic design. Out of all the versions of this alien, the classic version was definitely my favorite. I also wanted to make his arms big and bulky. He's a Frankenstein's monster, you gotta emphasize strength somehow, aside from his physical physique. What was that? Oh, right, the strength emphasis. I did this by making his gauntlets more rounded, kind of like a gorilla arm. The colors were also giving me problems because I wanted them to make sense, you know? See, not only is metal a good lightning conductor, but certain metals are better at it than others. The best of which is copper. So I made the gauntlets and coils on his back that color, and some silver nodes for highlights. Also, as a fun little detail, I added a patch of white hair. This is a reference to The Bride of Frankenstein, where the female monster had streaks of white hair when she was animated. That being said, I present to you my version of a rebooted Frankenstrike. And with that, we've reached the second half of the add-ons playlist. Just be patient for the other half, okay? I'll try to add more original aliens next time, but then again, that might take the video longer to make. If you want to know when that video drops, hit the subscribe and bell buttons. Anyway, Celestial Dragoons, until next time, reach for the stars!